they're very keen on kind of encouraging you to hydrate. Shocker. But one thing I did find out real fast was your body gets real used to being hydrated, and when you let yourself get towards being dehydrated, that water just it tastes so good, and it's very hard to accurately explain the sensation of drinking water when your body's used to being hydrated and you've just kind of skipped it. It's a big difference. Anyway, hydration's good. Can't recommend it enough.
So how's that thing coming along?
It's actually coming along really good. The advantage to having a very detailed model like this, with a lot of deep crevices and stuff, is when you get a dark base coat, it does a lot of the work for you. So even if you're a mediocre painter, it really lets the details pop even without you having to do a lot of highlighting work and color layering.
Okay.
It's very... I mean, it's also a challenge just because there's a lot of details to paint.
Yeah.
But, you know, just the ones that you do have to paint, they come out very easily.
Yeah. So, do you mind?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, pardon me for your hands. I have made some progress. I got the face done.
Oh, yeah. I like the axe here. I like the red axe.
I don't know if you can get a good focus in on them, but...
Yeah, it's more about back here. So...
Yeah, I think if you get closer to the camera from a distance, it has an easier time to focus. There it is.
Yeah, right there. So
yeah, hopefully you guys can see the details on it, but I promise most of that is just because I did a very thorough job of spray painting a black base coat, and then I used a red primer as the primary color, and I sprayed downward at about a 45-degree angle.
Nice.
And
nice.
that kind of just adds a auto shading effect to your model, adds a lot of depth to it. It requires no skill whatsoever.
Now, what's this model for?
This is for War Machine. That's the Rulic sub-faction of the Mercenaries.
Okay.
They're War Machine dwarves.
So why did you choose the color? What inspired the color?
Well, I don't know. I just was looking at the model, and I didn't want to go with, like, you know, straight metallic tones. I didn't think I wanted to go with browns or anything like gray, you know, just, oh, it's rock. I wanted something that kind of spoke of earth tones, but was also looked rugged. So I kind of just wanted to test it, and it actually worked very well. I did that red priming as the base color, and then I actually just dry brushed Army Painter, let me see what it is, sulfide ochre, whatever, how do you say that? I think it's ochre.
Okay.
Yeah, just a simple dry brush on that until I got the color gradient I liked the most. Dry brushing is real effective, again, on very detailed models like that, because it hits the raised areas and kind of, again, gradients, that adds a gradient to the color without really any skill. It's great.
Here's what John has been working on.
Definitely just painted my lips. Yeah.
So, all right, good. So how do you think John's doing with his?
I would say that is obviously fantastic. I mean,
oh yeah.
Anytime somebody's good enough to get paid to paint somebody else's models, I always am keen to pick their brain and admire their work, because that generally indicates that they're quite skilled.
So what are you hoping on improving upon? What are you working on?
Really just basic techniques. I talked about it a little earlier. I don't know if you guys heard it, but I have a real hard time with figuring out how not to overpaint models and how to like accurately approach detailing on a model. You know, kind of picking your battles so you don't spend all this time on a model and not really getting anywhere, and what time you do spend on it, like having it be very effective.
Yeah, that's always a tough thing, and usually my recommendation is just try new things. Like, I know not everyone has infinite time to invest in new models or, like, you know, painting new stuff, but I always say, like, try something different every time you do a model until you absolutely find the perfect way to do the thing that you wanted to do. And theoretically, that should be never. So
Never stop trying.
So it's basically never stop innovating, never stop doing cool new stuff, and you will genuinely always be happy. Like, you know, just keep growing, man. It's tough to quantify, but like as a hobby, like as a hobbyist, you guys are now hobbyists by doing this stuff. Take the time to get yourself better, grow, don't ever settle. Because I know every one of you out there can be a great painter. Trust me, if I can do it, you guys can.
I genuinely believe that statement makes you the Bob Ross of model painting in the best possible way.
I could only hope. I could only hope my epitaph is John Galvin. He was kind of like Bob Ross for minis. I'd be okay with that.
Fair enough. I think you achieved that.
Or even better, here lies John Galvin. He tried to clone dinosaurs and succeeded.
And that's why he lies here.
Yeah. But it needs to rhyme so it can be like used in the Haunted Mansion Disney ride.
That would be awesome.
Just goals.
Yeah, I think we're going to go for just a leather look on his, I guess, war jacket. Not sure what to call this thing.
Yeah, have you read any of the War Machine novels or books, Andrew?
I have not.
How they describe Warcaster armor is really weird.
I guess that's not really true. I did read the mini novel for when they transitioned to Mark III, and
was it Blood of Kings, or was it?
I can't recall what the name of it was, but it was the story where Constance Blaze and I want to say it's Haley.
Oh, that's Wrath of the Dragonfather.
On her way to Haley 3, try I guess exfiltrate, and then there's that big confrontation between the powered up dragon and Toruk, and he gets his hiney kicked and runs back to Crixian land to lick his wounds.
And he says, "Next time, He-Man."
Right.
So I really love that story because Constance Blaze is a female warcaster, and she kind of gets a rap for being not great in terms of gameplay, and that might be true because I have yet to see her perform at a tournament. But in the story, man, what a paragon. Like, so these warcasters have this armor that's powered by their magic ability. So, like, they have magic armor. And very early in the story, she has to give up that armor to kind of save the day. And then as she's carrying the unpowered, like, 60-pound plus suit, she has to tow off with one of the best swordsmen in their world. And she holds her own.
She does.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the real enjoyment I got out of that story was watching. They did a great job depicting her character. She's sort of your archetypal paladin type, if you will, but just the epitome of self-sacrifice. Nothing really came across as Mary Suish, where it's like, oh, of course she won. Everything came across. It was very hard fought. It was something.
It was a struggle.
It was something she won because she didn't have a choice to lose.
Yeah.
The stakes were too great, and she just refused to allow herself to lose. So, There was a couple of, I mean, not to use this in a negative term, but Deus Ex Machina moments, where I think Haley saves herself, and that's kind of the explanation for how she becomes Haley 3 to begin with. So it's, I think kind of by definition a little bit of Deus Ex Machina, but her future, because her magic is really heavily tied to time. So in the story, her future self and her past self kind of materialize in the present and help her kind of throw off the last bits of the enemy that they're struggling against. Right as Constance Blaze has given her last bit of effort, she's kind of resigned herself to death, kind of hoping that what she sacrificed was enough. And then, those past and future self come back and kind of sort of save the day just to keep the story moving along. But it was all very, very gritty, very painful, very real, and I loved that story so much.
It's a really good one.
And then watching Toruk get his butt kicked was a surprise too. I thought he was just going to kind of like, I'm Toruk smash, but
yeah,
you
never
the other way.
You never expect the guy who is called the Dragon Father to get his booty handed to him. But yeah, like you said, it was that was an unexpected twist because they kind of set it up to where it's like, okay, the bad guy's going to win. We just have to minimize the damage.
Yeah, very much so.
But they ended up going a different way, which I really appreciated.
Boy, this is taking a lot of layers of brown to get this holster right.
Yup. I am really digging Privateer Press. If you are watching this, you probably aren't because this isn't one of your models. But man, your Eldritch color is magnificent. It's one of the new colors that just came out, and it's kind of like a very blue green. And
you have my interest peaked.
It's a good in between from Meridius Blue and Arcane Blue. It's what these little frog guys are currently. I'm not sure if you guys once can see, and it comes across much more vibrant than it does on camera, but it works perfectly with gold. It feels very Egyptian,
very turquoise. Very Egyptian, very Mayan. If you wanted to go Mayan used a massive amount of jade and turquoise, if I recall, not just gold. So that's
I
very
remember.
Versatile. I love that color. Yeah, wow, that's great.
Yep, we have it here in store, ready for you guys to pick up.
Now I'm a big fan of light blue glowing for magic effects. I think that I might have to amend that. I think I like the bluish green and tone of that.
So
I might be switching over to that.
It's actually in the same color family as what I use for my glowing effects, which is Meridius Blue and Arcane Blue from Privateer Press. And this is kind of like a happy in between the Meridius and the Arcane. Now, if you do use it as a glow effect, it will start skewing your work towards the green side of things, which is absolutely fine, for me at least. It also having that kind of color shift gives a lot of visual interest to your model, so it is highly recommended. And also, I'm getting to the point where I'm regretting not sub-assembling this guy, because he's got a lot of arms all focused on his left side, and now it's my job to make sure I get all the trim painted correctly while not destroying anything I've done previously.
Yeah, I'm too lazy of a hobbyist to try to paint models while they're in pieces.
I understand.
So I have to admit that might never happen for me anyway. But they say never, but I just it might be a long time before I feel like doing that. It's like, no. Well, it also doesn't help that I legitimately enjoy putting models together quite a bit. I am a huge fan of the Grey Knight range of Space Marines from Warhammer 40k. Just because their the Grey Knight models are just absolutely awesome to look at. So putting them together is a legitimate pleasure. one that I doubt I would have the fortitude to kind of, you're like, all right, no, we're going to paint all the swords and we're going to paint all the backpacks and the chest pieces. Then we'll put the model together. I don't think I could do that.
I guess that's fine.
Hmm?
Said I guess that's fine. I like the idea of subassembly, but most of the time it is my hubris that stops me, where it's like, oh no. It's like, I can totally paint around that. I don't need to subassemble. Like, let's do it. And then I start painting the model, and it's just like, past John is a jerk. Just gets in future John's way.
What kind of brush do you typically apply these quick shade tones to with?
I like large. So I like large soft brushes that have a long feathery tip.
Something towards this end.
Yeah. Like, that's fine, especially if you're not being super precise with it. Obviously, the more precise you are, use a finer brush. Or, sorry, the smaller the detail you're trying to hit, use a smaller brush. But most of the time, I just use long feathery brushes because I find that's the best way to get your detail down.
Good deal. All right, come on, black. I actually am less of a color purchaser specifically. I quite like mixing my own
I
colors.
am
Ill-advised
with
as
you,
that probably is.
but I always forget my formulas.
Oh, I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of painter, so I would not have the I wouldn't even have the knowledge to know how to sit down there and come up with my own formula. But like, rather than getting leather brown, I like to use just a standard brown that I was using for everything else, and then just add some, add maybe a tinge of yellow, and then darken it with some black, and then just use that, and then go back over it and highlight it with that same brown. Just add a little extra yellow that time. I don't know, but hey, like I said, not that great of a painter.
I've been trying to get in the habit of making more of my own washes and making more of my own.
Now, washes are interesting. What's the typical process you go through to make a wash?
I cheat a little bit. Like, a lot of times with the P3 paints, you can just add water to it and it'll be fine. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of mixing medium to give it a little bit more body. And then sometimes I'll cheat and I'll use the Army Painter wash quick shade mix, which is, I don't know what's in it besides magic, but it's probably some sort of thinned down acrylic medium, and that one really helps out. Boy, does this guy look a lot better when he's all blocked in.
What's that term mean?
Like the greens are where the greens are supposed to be. The golds are where the golds are.
Okay, got it.
So no shading, no washes, or anything like that yet, with a lot of the pieces of armor. But the
colors are where they need to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes the model look more finished. I can show it off a little bit more, being like, yeah, this is close to what it's going to look like when he's done. And people are going to be like, oh my god.
What is that from? Oh my god.
Oh, I don't know. It's so ingrained in me now. Like, if someone told me it's like...
Oh, I think that's from Madagascar. No. What is that from?
It's going to hit you. It'll probably hit you.
It's going to hit me later when I'm halfway through a match where I'm getting my clock clean.
So,
brain. Not the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I am a culmination of references from past ages. I think we all are. I think that's the generation we live in is just to be a mishmash of media we've consumed.
I do think I'm actually getting close to the point where I'm ready to call him done and shade him. Surprisingly, I think I want to do my glow effects Would you do that before? I think you'd do that
After the shade.
after the shade. All right.
Yeah, anything that you want to look like it's glowing, give it the best chance to glow, which means don't shadow it.
Makes sense.
So after I'm done with the gold, I'm going to hit it with a wash, and then I'm going to be cleaning up all the areas that I probably hit by mistake. Because I can see some teals where teal should not be. I see some golds where gold should not be. With the magenta being the base coat, the magenta's all pretty much contained where it's supposed to be at this point.
Okay, so just to get some, do you think?
Don't wash
I
the
wanna,
face.
I want to brag. No, I'm very happy with using the bolt gunmetal over the grill.
Oh, yeah,
for,
yeah, yeah.
The highlight on that one. That came out great.
I always like Wizard of Ozing people when they like do a model that they really enjoy. Like they're like, oh man, this came out amazing! I can't believe it. And I'm like, see, Scarecrow.
You had it in you all along.
Yeah. I would like that to take. Like I would much prefer Wizard of Ozing someone to be more of a commonplace term than gaslighting.
I'm good with that. I second that motion. I don't know if that matters at all.
You know, we can try to make it a thing. It'll be better than fetch, right?
I'm not sure what that means.
You did not watch Mean Girls then.
Nope.
That's a
I
shame.
think I can proudly say that I've never watched Mean
It's a
Girls.
good movie.
Fair enough. Then I will simply state it as fact. I have not seen it.
You know, once again, oh god, why did I get
You know
gold?
what, maybe I think the dry brush is going to be the best thing for this. I'm sitting here doing this the hard way.
Remember, guys, use your techniques wisely.
And if you have a brush for a specific job, probably should use it for that job.
Yeah, I mean, that knows.
Ooh, that's too watered down.
One of my roommates is asking me if I knew a guy who might have gone to my college at the same time as me.
That's always fun.
That is a question that is very difficult to answer.
My favorite was when I have had people say, "Oh, hey, you were at this Air Force base, right?" Yeah. Do you know this guy? I'm like, well, there's some like 3,300 active personnel on that base.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Probably not. Probably not.
Because like I'll know someone from the military and be like, "Oh, you're in the Navy too. You guys probably know each other." And they're like, "What?" It's like, "Do you not know how big the Navy is?" And I'm like, "Actually, I don't."
Yeah, I have no idea. So you know him, right?
Yeah.
That's all right. It is just funny. People wonder if you know somebody just because you're somewhat affiliated with them.
I mean, I know a lot of people in the game industry because, game store, right? So like every industry's got to be that way.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I think that's how it works.
I don't know as many people in Games Workshop as I should, or as I would like to. Kind of sucks when they're in the UK.
Hashtag relocate GW.
Well, they have their American office in Tennessee, so like we know a lot of the American guys, and they're all absolutely fantastic and a lot of fun to joke around with.
That's good. It's very good.
I don't know what it is about Games Workshop. I think you have to have a good sense of humor to work there. I mean, I guess you're like you're peddling toy soldiers for a living, so you have to have some sort of like humor to you.
Makes sense. I don't know how. I mean, I imagine you could take yourself seriously. It just seems very unprofitable given the fact that it's like mini wargaming. What's their thing? We work so you can play. It's like, you guys call that work? That's awesome. I say as I'm a outsider looking in,
Yeah.
it's probably a lot of work.
I
much
mean,
less play,
with the amount of stuff we have to do for our live streams too.
right? There's a lot of work involved in working in a game store, guys.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Turns out it's still a job.
Yeah. Turns out work is still work. Yeah, I do like it quite a bit, though. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's Gigabytes has been my home for half a decade.
So I'm very happy to report that this is turning out quite nicely. Just the addition of the metallic on the gray has really made him come together quite a bit. Now, as far as weathering, what would be some tips? Because I'd like to know some.
So, weathering can be done through a combination of washes and techniques that lend themselves to weathering. So, like, for my dwarves, I ended up stippling a lot of the highlights on them. And that's basically taking an old beat up brush and, like, dabbing the brush on there for, like, lots of points, like, using almost pointillism to that.
Yeah.
And that creates a rough looking texture to whatever piece of armor you're working on.
Would you use just what kind of colors would you use to try to do that?
So with that one, your guy, since he's kind of on the yellow side, I used rucksack tan followed by moldy ochre. Moldy ochre is probably the step that you're at right now. And moldy ochre is like an off yellow paint. It's it's like close to Menoth white, but it's got that like more yellowish tinge to it. So I always recommend it for that. So yeah, it is, I think I have most of the gold blocked in, he says, as he's giving like another pass to it.
So something like, oh, that's two.
Let's see. Is there something I can stipple? And do I have, I do have a stippling brush. But yeah, so, do you have like an old beat up brush?
That's exactly what this is.
Okay,
Probably
cool.
too stiply, but
Oh, it's looking good. But yeah, basically what you're doing is you're just going to be grabbing the paint. You want to make sure that it's pretty thin, like, and that's where like you'll usually like water down your paint or something like that. But you'll just kind of like dab, and you want those like dots to be apparent, like as you're doing it, because once again, as you pull back, like your eye's going to start translating that to a rougher texture.
okay, so
I wish I had a good stippling model here. I do have my Earthbreaker in the display case, which I'm going to go grab.
so maybe something more along the lines of the top of his.
Yeah, so I like that. For you guys who can't see, I really like, you are doing such a good job on this model. I hope you're happy with him.
I'm super happy with this guy. He's I was talking about it earlier, but he's very easy to paint.
Yeah.
Especially when you got that really dark base coat with that great red primer on it, because
Yeah.
it just makes all the details come out so easy.
So what else do you have over there?
I don't actually have any intention of painting anymore. I did build an Oberyn Balcour for my dwarves because he's an awesome model.
So, we actually might be a little bit on the twinsies side. This is the Earthbreaker I painted a while ago. And by a while ago, I mean like when this model came out. It has since left my ownership, but stays here in the store. But this is a combination of stippling, pigment powders, washes, and a bit of the hairspray weathering technique to chip the actual model. So, Andrew, we ended up being fairly close in scheme.
That is sweet.
But if you look on the actual like shoulder pads, you can kind of see the dotting and the stippling from
So,
there.
the brown dotting there. What is that? Is that?
So that's actually one of the pigment powders that we sell here at the store.
Uh-huh.
And what I did is I mixed it with a little bit of water. Once again, put it on a beat up brush, and I started flicking the brush
Nice.
at the model. And that's a great way to get like splatter effects and extra dirt and things like that. It's definitely more apparent on his drill hands and on his like cow catchery front thing. So yeah. Also, Privateer Press has this thing called Mini Crate. You get these amazingly sculpted models that are alt models for War Machine and Hordes. But this is their Alton Van Helsing, which is a monster hunter from their world turned into one of our most iconic monster hunters. So it's really neato. I like that model a lot. It's super cool.
I wish I had the free income at the time to get him, so I'm gonna have to try to pick him up after the fact later, if that's possible. But I also want to get the Totem Huntress because I love Totem Hunter as a character and I loved playing him on the tabletop. And she was just a fantastic sculpt in and of herself on one of my favorite models.
Totem Hunter is actually one of my first models I painted for Privateer Press.
I thought it was really cool to see the Totem Hunter's species, which I don't even know the name of. I don't think anybody.
No, we
actually
don't.
knows the
It's
name.
actually currently unknown.
I think they're rumored to come from the land of what's called
Zoo. I come from the land down under.
Yeah. But yeah, as of for now, okay. So now, if I wanted to highlight the leather, I don't even know if that's necessary because right now he's got a very, very hefty "I'm in the trenches" look to him. Right now.
I don't think you necessarily have to
I
do
don't
a
think
whole lot.
I want to do any more highlighting. I do want to touch up a few more bits of his metal
But
pieces.
guys, we are hitting our time allotment for the stream. Joe's getting antsy. He wants his paycheck. I guess I'll have to go write that for him. So thank you everyone who has joined us for the stream. Thank you Andrew for being here,
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
and we'll be here next week. So goodbye.
That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to touch up that tip.